All right. So Hunter Biden, the corrupt fail son of President Joe Biden, recently caused sort of like a stir at Congress when he unexpectedly showed up to a congressional hearing that was happening about him, specifically about Republicans trying to push forward with contempt charges because he failed to show up for a closed-door testimony or subpoena that they wanted to give to him. Now, his argument that I'll get to more here in a second is basically that he will testify as long as it's in a public setting. And his explanation is basically, I don't want you guys to be able to spin the narrative about what was said or give selective leaks to the media about the testimony. I want it to be all out in the open, which I honestly think is a respectable argument. But anyways, he shows up to this congressional hearing and then storms out, okay, after Marjorie Taylor Greene begins to question him. So let's watch a little bit of this here real quick. So here you have Hunter Biden and his lawyers here down at the bottom. It's going to be difficult to see at the beginning, but here he is storming out.
Greene from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
Whoa! Oh.
I'd like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Kind of burst their bubble. Wow, that's too bad.
I think it's clear and obvious for everyone watching this hearing today that Hunter Biden is terrified of strong conservative Republican women because he can't even face my words as I was about to speak to him.
Okay. So, I mean, there's just so much about this that's kind of funny. I mean, first off, I think it was kind of a boss move to show up to this congressional hearing about yourself and sit in the front row. I think that was kind of, him posing up on them, and that's respectable, right? But storming out, it's also kind of a weak move. I guess there's different interpretations of it. I think if you're going to make an argument that it was fair for him to storm out, probably the strongest case is that not only in this hearing or in past hearings, but like later in the same exact hearing that he just stormed out of, she's holding up like a little piece of paper or something, right? A piece of cardboard with his dick on it. I mean, listen, it's one thing to go after Hunter Biden corruption, okay, if he was corruptly trading on his dad's name and profiting off of it, and, Republicans are trying to impeach Joe Biden because they say that Biden was directly implicated in that corruption in sort of a quid pro quo way. It's perfectly fine to go after Joe Biden if there is corruption there directly. It's perfectly fine to go after Hunter Biden if you can prove that he violated some sort of a law or something. That's totally fine. I don't care about Hunter Biden. He can go rot in jail for all that I care, right? In the same way that I think that, Jared Kushner, for example, should be prosecuted, should be charged for his egregious corruption that I'll talk about more here in a second. So, I mean, holding up his dick, kind of unnecessary. We all know that he was on a bunch of drugs and, he was hooking up with a bunch of sex workers. We all know that. You can just say it. You don't necessarily need to be flashing his ass and cock in front of everybody. It's kind of unnecessary, right? And so I do understand. I probably wouldn't want to sit through a congressional hearing where people are flashing my privates to the entire country, right? So I kind of understand it on that aspect of it. The other funny part is that you have somebody who's like an uber right-wing conservative, Marjorie Taylor Greene, typically, love to say that they are firmly against identity politics, and then using that phrase, he's scared of me because I'm a strong conservative woman. I mean, pick one. Listen, I mean, they're obviously, against identity politics when it comes to, black Americans or gay Americans or trans Americans or Hispanic Americans. But when it comes to white Americans, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they love identity politics, right? When they can use feminism to their own benefit, then they love identity politics, right? But then also they'll turn around and they'll say, these radical feminists are tearing apart the country. You gotta pick a lane, okay? You can't just whip this out when it's beneficial to you. At least be consistent about it, right? And we had an even more egregious example of that here from Nancy Mace, a fellow Republican, okay, who says, let's just go ahead and watch this clip here, because this was wild.
Wish to be heard. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Comer. First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman,
The ladies recognize.
If the gentle lady wants to hear from Hunter Biden, we can hear from him right now, Mr. Chairman. Let's take a vote and hear from Hunter Biden. What are you afraid of?
Hold on. Order.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Are women allowed to speak in here or no?
Okay, so again, like, what is going on? Have conservatives gone woke or something? Why are they all pulling out the woman card right now? Are women allowed to speak in this testimony? What the fuck? And what was that about white privilege? I mean, seriously, what is happening? It's white privilege for him to show up because he doesn't want to do a closed door testimony with you guys. He wants to do it in public. I mean, again, I think that that's entirely fair. Saying he has no balls when later in this same exact hearing, we showed his balls on screen. I mean, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene. He has no balls. I mean, you can kind of see the balls right there, you know? So, I mean, it's just a bizarre situation. Okay, now the update on this, I mean, they're still going to push forward with this contempt charge against him. You know, he's also facing, this just came out today, the judge has officially set his trial on tax charges for June of 2024, so like tax fraud, as well as those gun charges, I think, in Delaware, where, you know, he didn't register properly when he obtained a gun because he lied about him being on drugs and said he wasn't when he actually was. So, you know, I mean, there's a certain number of different cases that he's sort of pending right now. I don't know if he's going to be found guilty or not. He's pled not guilty to them, so we'll have to see on that. I don't really know what the consequences would be, even if he is found guilty. You know, I find it, you know, hard to believe that he's actually going to be thrown in jail for this. Now, on the broader question here of whether or not Hunter Biden is corrupt, yeah, sure, I'm perfectly willing to believe that. I mean, obviously, you know, this guy was going and working for companies he didn't really have qualifications for. I don't think it's any mystery that he probably got a lot of the positions that he did and made so much money off of the fact that his dad's name was Biden, that his last name is Biden, and his dad was in a position of power, right? So that's just standard nepotism. Now, I would say that I'm principally against that kind of political nepotism and trading on, you know, a political position for your own personal benefit because of your father's position in power in our government. I'm definitely against that, but I'm against that in a principled way, right? In the same way that I'm against Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, being a part of the Trump White House influencing U.S. foreign policy, specifically in the Middle East, and then leaving office and immediately getting $2 billion from the Saudis. I mean, what are we doing here? If we're going to go, you know, tackle political corruption or nepotism or favors or quid pro quos, maybe start there. I mean, maybe go after both of them, right? You could take whatever the worst, you know, envisioned idea of what Hunter Biden is accused of, and you'd still have to multiply it by 10 to get to what Jared Kushner did right out in the open. I mean, Hunter wasn't in the White House, right? Jared Kushner was in the White House specifically working on foreign policy in the Middle East and then got billions of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, not even millions like Hunter allegedly did, billions of dollars to his bullshit investment firm that even the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund said initially at the time, this guy's not qualified. Why are we giving this guy money? This is a terrible investment. And then Mohammed bin Salman stepped in and he said, you guys are being fucking idiots. This isn't about, you know, any sort of economic investment. This is about a political investment because he just did us favors when he was in office. And guess what? If Trump wins the White House in 2024, then they can do us more favors, right? That's what that was about. And that happened right out in the open in the same way that Trump has gotten money from the Saudis, from other countries around the world, like for the Live Golf tournaments, from his other properties. There was a recent report that came out showing that Trump has gotten millions of dollars from upwards of like 20 different foreign, you know, governments and corporations around the world, including China being the number one on that list. So, I mean, the idea that, like, you're going to make that your top issue, that is the top issue that Republicans are using to try to impeach Biden, to try to criticize Biden for 2024 throughout the entirety of his presidency, and it's something that's, like, just naked hypocrisy, right? So it's so glaring and it's frustrating that there really don't seem to be many people at all. I mean, I could probably count on my hands the amount of people in Congress that actually have principled stances against corruption. I mean, even at the end of the day, all of these Republicans ranting about Hunter Biden and his corruption, these are the same people who are funded by like Raytheon and Blackstone and all of these different Wall Street ghouls from the defense industry, from the fossil fuel industry, from the banking sector. These people are all owned by corporate America. If we want to meaningfully address political corruption in this country, let's start with campaign finance reform, right? And so it's deeply unserious in a lot of different ways. It's all just sort of like political theater at the end of the day. And I guess here you had, Hunter Biden actually directly participating in that political theater, which is kind of funny, kind of interesting to see. And I guess we'll have to see where it goes from here.